Something is wrong in Iceland, and it's not the lava flows you've already seen on the news. What I'm about to walk you through goes beyond the Reykjanes Peninsula eruptions that have been making headlines since 2021, beyond the glowing fissures and the tourist footage. What's happening right now, across multiple volcanic systems simultaneously, is something that Iceland's own monitoring scientists are describing in language that, for scientists, is quite serious. The mainstream narrative about Iceland has been active, photogenic, under control. Tourists hike to the lava fields. The footage goes viral. Everyone moves on. That narrative is now wrong, and the data is what tells you so. I'm going to show you exactly what the instruments are recording, why this goes far beyond anything Iceland has shown in the modern monitoring era, and tectonic systems that connect this island to the rest of the world. Let's get into it. And tectonic systems that connect this island to the rest of the world. Let's get into it. Let's begin. Before we get into the current signals, you need to understand what Iceland actually is geologically, because most people fundamentally misunderstand it, and that misunderstanding is exactly why the current situation isn't getting the attention it deserves. Iceland is the only place on Earth where a mid-ocean ridge rises above sea level. The Mid-Atlantic Ridge runs the entire length of the Atlantic Ocean, roughly 16,000 kilometers. From the Arctic to the Antarctic, it is the boundary between the North American Plate and the Eurasian Plate. These two plates are pulling apart from each other continuously at roughly 2.5 centimeters per year. As they separate, magma from the mantle below rises to fill the gap. Everywhere else on Earth, this process happens kilometers beneath the ocean. You will never see it. You will never stand on it. In Iceland, it comes out of the water. The entire island sits directly on this spreading boundary. Iceland is being pulled apart, literally rifting, in real time, rising from deep within the Earth, that feeds the massive volcanic systems in the island's interior. A column of anomalously hot material rising from deep within the Earth, that feeds the massive volcanic systems in the island's interior. Vatnajökull, Bárðarbunga, Grímsvötn, two magma sources, a spreading ridge tearing the crust apart, a deep mantle plume punching heat upward from below, and a crust thinner here than almost anywhere else on the planet's surface. Iceland is, by any geological measure, one of the most volcanically intense environments on Earth. And right now, multiple systems within that environment are showing simultaneous anomalies that have no modern precedent. So let me correct the record on what that sequence actually means. The Reykjanes Peninsula was volcanically dormant for approximately 800 years before 2021, 8 centuries of silence. Then a fissure opened near Fagradalsfjall and began erupting. Then a fissure opened near Fagradalsfjall and began erupting. The framing that settled into place was interesting, photogenic, manageable. People hiked to the lava field and took selfies. Scientists called it a slow effusive eruption, low risk, under control. That framing missed the point entirely. 800 years of dormancy doesn't mean a system is dead. It means it was recharging, magma accumulating, pressure building, stress loading along the fault networks of the peninsula over centuries. It was the first crack in a door. That had been closed for 800 years. And that door is now wide open. The eruptions continued, 2022. And each successive eruption has shown the same pattern. Larger output, more energetic intrusion events between eruptions, and shorter response times between magma input and surface eruption. The system is not calming down, it is accelerating. And here's the detail that matters most. The net deformation trend across the peninsula is upward. More magma is entering the system than is leaving it through eruption. The reservoir is still filling. A system that is filling faster, responding faster, and erupting larger with each cycle is not a system winding down. It is a system scaling up, and that is the baseline on top of which the following signals are now appearing. Beyond Reykjanes, there are 3 additional signals coming out of Iceland's broader volcanic network right now that are not making it into mainstream coverage. Signal 1, Grímsvötn, pressure above pre-2011 levels. It sits beneath the ice cap in central Iceland, the largest glacier in Europe. It erupts roughly every 5 to 10 years. It produced a larger ash cloud than the famous 2010 Eyjafjallajökull event in a fraction of the time. It produced a larger ash cloud than the famous 2010 Eyjafjallajökull event in a fraction of the time, and disrupted European airspace severely. Right now, Grímsvötn's inflation level has exceeded what was recorded before the 2011 eruption. The caldera floor is rising. GPS displacement is pointing upward and outward. The Icelandic Meteorological Office has stated publicly that Grímsvötn is considered ready to erupt. When Grímsvötn erupts beneath a glacier, the immediate consequence is a jökullaup, a glacial outburst flood. Billions of liters of meltwater releasing catastrophically across the landscape. Roads, bridges, and coastal infrastructure destroyed in hours. That connect North America to Europe. That is not a hypothetical. It happened in 2011. That connect North America to Europe. That is not a hypothetical. It happened in 2011. And the system is more pressurized now than it was then. Signal 2, Bárðarbunga, accelerated recharge. In 2014, Bárðarbunga produced one of the largest volcanic events in Iceland in 230 years. A massive magma intrusion propagated 45 kilometers under the ice cap before breaking the surface at Holuhraun, producing a lava field of nearly 85 square kilometers. During that event, the Bárðarbunga caldera collapsed, the chamber roof subsiding roughly 65 meters as magma drained laterally. Since that collapse, the caldera has been slowly recovering, the floor rising as the chamber beneath recharges. That recharge rate has recently accelerated, combined with increased microseismic activity beneath the caldera and elevated geothermal heat output at the surface. Bárðarbunga is showing active refilling at a pace above its post-2014 baseline. Grímsvötn and Bárðarbunga, two of Iceland's most powerful volcanic systems, showing accelerated recharge simultaneously. Both fed by the same deep mantle plume. That simultaneous acceleration is not coincidence. It is a signal about what is happening at depth. Signal 3, deep seismicity on Reykjanes, new magma from below. In the early years of the Reykjanes reactivation, the seismic swarms were shallow, earthquakes occurring in the upper few kilometers of crust, consistent with magma moving through existing pathways near the surface. The most recent swarm activity on the peninsula includes earthquakes at depths of 10, 15, and in some cases 20 kilometers. This is a significant change. Deep seismicity in a volcanic system indicates one of two things: stress fracturing as the crust adjusts to surface activity, or fresh magma input from the mantle below, new material entering the system and working upward. The geometry and spatial progression of the current deep earthquake clusters is more consistent with the second interpretation. The system isn't just redistributing what's already there, it is being refilled from below. New material entering from depth into a system that is already erupting at the surface. That combination means the supply driving the current eruption sequence is not finite and diminishing. It is being actively replenished. Here is the scenario that is not being discussed, and it should be. Volcanologists study what they call volcanic interaction, the documented ways in which activity in one part of a volcanic system influences activity in other parts. Pressure changes from one eruption can unclamp faults elsewhere. Magma movement in one system changes the stress field in adjacent systems. Magma movement in one system changes the stress field in adjacent systems. A large Jökulhlaup from a subglacial eruption causes sudden mass unloading of the crust, which directly affects pressure balance in nearby magma chambers. Less ice above means less pressure suppression below. More magma reaches the surface, more frequently. Multiple active systems, in close geographic proximity, all simultaneously elevated. Research published in leading geophysical journals has established a direct correlation between glacial retreat and increased volcanic productivity in Iceland. The interaction risk between them is real, it is documented in the scientific literature, and it is being almost entirely ignored in the public conversation. There is one additional factor that makes this situation structurally different from any prior Iceland eruption cycle, and it is permanent. The ice is not coming back. The volcanic systems beneath are adjusting to a new equilibrium. Iceland's glaciers act as a pressure lid on the volcanic systems beneath them. The Icelandic Meteorological Office has released statements in recent months that, read carefully, carry significant weight. They have stated that eruptions may occur in new locations, not just the areas active since 2021. The weight of the ice suppresses eruption. As that ice melts, and Iceland is losing glacial mass at a significant and accelerating rate, that lid is being removed. Research published in leading geophysical journals has established a direct correlation between glacial retreat and increased volcanic productivity in Iceland. This process is already underway. It is not a future scenario. It is a mechanism that is actively changing the baseline behavior of Iceland's volcanic systems, permanently, in one direction. Less ice above means less pressure suppression below. More magma reaches the surface, more frequently. As potentially the beginning of a centuries-long eruptive episode, comparable to the volcanic episodes that built the peninsula's geological record over the past 10,000 years. This process is already underway. It is not a future scenario. It is a mechanism that is actively changing the baseline behavior of Iceland's volcanic systems, permanently, in one direction. The ice is not coming back. The volcanic systems beneath are adjusting to a new equilibrium. Here is what I want you to take from this. Iceland is not doing what Iceland normally does, and they have been working with civil authorities on updated evacuation planning for scenarios that extend beyond what existing emergency frameworks currently cover. The most immediate watch point is Grímsvötn. It is loaded above its pre-2011 level, and the scientific consensus is that it will erupt. That is Iceland's monitoring agency telling you, in the most measured institutional language available to them, that they are preparing for something larger and more geographically extensive than what has happened so far. Independent researchers at the University of Iceland and the Nordic Volcanological Center have published work describing the current Reykjanes reactivation. The scientists are not panicking, but they are not relaxed. And the gap between what they are saying in their published research and what is reaching the general public is significant. Here's what I want you to take from this. Iceland is not doing what Iceland normally does. It is doing something more systems, more signals, more simultaneously, and faster than the historical record suggested it would. The most immediate watch point is Grímsvötn. It is loaded above its pre-2011 level, and the scientific consensus is that it will erupt. When it does, and if that eruption is at the larger end of its historical range, the consequences for transatlantic aviation, for Iceland's infrastructure, and potentially for the interaction dynamics of the broader system will not be small. When it does, and if that eruption is at the larger end of its historical range, the consequences for transatlantic aviation, for Iceland's infrastructure, and potentially for the interaction dynamics of the broader system will not be small. I'll keep tracking this closely. When the Grímsvötn situation moves, and it will move, I want you to already understand the context. Because when the media covers it, they will show you the lava and miss the story. The story is the system, and the system is alive in a way it hasn't been for centuries. Subscribe and turn on notifications. The next update on Iceland matters.